I talk about in my book about this little Bible that I used to have. I've never brought this to an event in my life, ever. This is the first time. And it's funny because I don't, covet my possessions or anything like that. But there was a point where I was checking in on the Delta app, like we're about my 2 bags. And I'm like, God, I hope that's Sheila's paradigm that's lost and not that I'm bringing from North Carolina and not my suitcase with my Bible in it. But they were both actually there. It was only showing me one for some reason. Did I say that out loud? I'm kidding. So it says on the front, Ruth N. Obinger. That's Ruth Naomi Obinger. That's my mother's maiden name. And you look inside. I do have a video on YouTube where I talk about this a little, this Bible. It says, presented to Ruth Naomi Obinger by mother. That's my grandmother, Irene. It was on the floor of her house that I compared Bibles to each other. This is one of them. This is one of the 5 when I was 7. It says Christmas 1956. So my mother didn't have much of a use for this because there was a huge religious movement that was sweeping, not especially America, but it was starting to move worldwide in Christmas of 1956. What was that religious movement? Started in Tupelo, then it moved to Memphis. It was called Elvis Presley. So yeah, that was the year he broke. So it's like, with Elvis, she didn't have a lot of use for this. But it's funny because if I go to the beginning of Matthew, it's torn out. Even as a kid, I was kind of perturbed about the begatting. And I remember thinking, why are you showing us all this begatting? Like, it annoyed me. I don't know if that's why I tore it out, but I remember even when I was 7, I was like, what do you even... It wasn't until years later that somebody said it's not even his bloodline. And I was like, duh, and it's been in front of my face for 30 years at that point. But anyway, and then you come over here to the Beatitudes, chapter 5, and like the corner of that is ripped out. It's probably just because I remember reading the Sermon on the Mount over and over, and not just this one. This is a King James Holy Bible, published by Hoffman, and then I have a New King James, which is a completely different Bible, and then I have a 1611 King James, which is a completely different Bible. People don't know that, but the reason I brought it is because if you come into the front, this was all during July. So yeah, July of 1979. You come in the front, and I actually wrote down my favorite Beatitudes. And I've got my name up here, Dale, and I can't quite make out, like I had some sort of a graph that I was starting to create. I had memorized, and I don't anymore, it's gone, but I had memorized all the books from Genesis to Revelation of the entire Bible, forward and backward. So I could go all the way from Genesis to Revelation and then in reverse, because it did nothing for me in my life. So that's why I did it. It's only been in the last couple years that I fully realized, maybe I'm going out on a limb, why I wrote these when I was 7. No way could I have known I'd be doing what I'm doing. At that time, I wanted to be a member of KISS. I wanted to be and I'm not kidding. I sent them a letter with different animal options of what they could make me up as to be the 5th member. And I'm 9 years old. Yeah, KISS is going to welcome a 9-year-old, actually a 7-year-old into the band. Yeah, maybe. But anyway, I think I was writing for myself now, because I wrote here, people don't think about what goes along with this job. And I'll say I would never have picked a Christocentric viewpoint to lay my entire life down for. And the reason I say that is because, and I say it with all the love in my heart, there is no religion on the planet that I am aware of that is more ignorant of its own origins, its own history, the translations, where things came from, who influenced what, and where the structures of the mythology come from than Christianity. And when people... And that doesn't mean they're stupid. It's just they don't know that they don't know. And when someone thinks that they've got it figured out because of the solidity, the solidification of a dogma, and then they start turning that into some kind of thought of being self-ordained by God, that's pretty dangerous. And for people like me, it comes with death threats, and it comes with threats to my family. It comes to threats, people trying to break into my websites and control them, people trying to break into my Google accounts to get to my YouTube, things like that, to my Zion, if you could put it that way. But I wrote here, blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are ye. Now this is when he's saying it to one person. Not that I knew that then. Blessed are ye when men shall revile you. And the middle of the beatitude isn't there. Rejoice, for great is your reward in heaven. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, which is our next beatitude we're going to get into, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. I can't explain what it's like knowing that I wrote this when I was 7 and what I'm experiencing. And I just be clear, I don't care, and I don't, I love you all, and I love everybody out there, even the idiots, but I don't care about people's theology. I don't care about the BS and the belief systems. People don't think or realize how many entities, religious, economic, political, transdimensional, and whether you like it or not, extraterrestrial, that are against this kind of information getting out, that puts personal power in the seat of the center of our own soul. You would not believe how it's all threaded together. And it's a big, huge mess in that sense. And, we talk a lot about chaos, and chaos is an interesting word. It's a Koine Greek word. It means an as yet unrecognized order. So chaos, you just kind of look and you see like all these stars, oh, it's chaos. But what's intriguing is when you are able to start recognizing the order in what was once previously disorder, it's no longer chaos. Now it's called cosmos. Interesting. And I talk a lot about, one of my mentors was Wayne Dyer when I was in my late teens into my late 20s. And, he would always talk about, remember, because I was living in New York for a while in Manhattan, he was like, did you ever go to Wall Street and watch, just hang out at Wall Street? What do you think's going to happen about 8:45 every morning? And I was like, well, I've been down there, but I never paid attention. And he's like, well, what do you think's going to happen? And I'm like, well, lots of people are going to probably be in the streets. He was like, they're going to pour out of the subway, right? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, what do you think it looked like? And I'm like, well, it looks like chaos. He's like, is it really? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, come back 15 minutes after 5. What do you think's going to happen? And I remember saying, reverse chaos. It's like all the same chaos. Then he's like, but is it really chaos? I'm like, well, what do you mean? He was like, do you think everybody's just wandering around with nowhere to go? And I was like, oh, I never thought about that. They all know pretty much, I would think, know where they're going, have some sort of sense or idea. I just don't see the order in it. So he's like, is it really chaos? And I went, oh, no, it's not. That was before I know of the actual chaos and cosmos. But a lot of times when you start studying this kind of stuff, things look like chaos, and it's hard to hold on. And I got to say, there's no reason for you to hold on, because there's nothing to hold on to, because there's nothing that's really outside of you, because there's only what Yeshua called Allah, the absolute.